Grown Man Sessions. We're back again. I am your host, Timothy Rhyme. We're over here trying to have conversations with other grown men so that we can, learn from their lessons, learn from their mistakes, learn from the challenges they've had to overcome. And without further ado, let's just get into it. What's up, you guys? So today I have the pleasure speaking with a good friend of mine. I've known him for a really long time. His name is Daniel Savala. What's up, Danny? How you doing?
What's happening, Tim?
So from what I know about you now is that you're the executive director for the Paso Blvd Partnership, which to my understanding is like a community-based organization where they try to like help redevelop the area.
Yeah, it's somewhat short of a redevelopment agency. It's like a business. It's a property-based improvement district. The easiest way to sum it up, man, is we all know Sacramento, or even any state you lived in or city you lived in California, where you got some hoods, some inner parts of the city that historically kind of ain't got a lot of love that they needed. Like some of the newer parts. So take places like Oak Park, Franklin Boulevard, Meadowview, Del Paso Heights. Well, Del Paso Boulevard is one of these areas that just hadn't got a lot of love over the years. So what property owners did about 10 years ago is they decided to tax themselves a little bit every year and take that money and pay for city services like security, maintenance, advocacy, pays my salary and my role to just kind of be a full-time hype man for Del Paso Boulevard in the north area. So it's an exciting opportunity.
Oh, that's awesome, man. I mean, doing community work is like some of the most fulfilling things that I think that you could probably do. I mean, because you're just trying to help people.
That's right. Small business owners, man. It's business owners and folks here in the neighborhood.
That's dope, man. So let's kind of get into your background, though. Can you give us a little rundown on like where you come from and like your journey and how you kind of got to where you're at now?
Yeah, man. I'm born and raised in Sacramento, South Sacramento to be exact. Fruit Ridge, Stockton. I was raised by a single mother here in Sacramento, which we moved around a lot. We moved where the rent was cheap. So, man, I've stayed in Oak Park, Lemon Hill, Fruit Ridge, 44th, Franklin, Lauren area. I think I went to 9 elementary schools throughout South Sacramento before I settled in at a FLI paper. So, went to Cal and McClatchy, and one of the neat things about, I guess one of the most significant things about my childhood growing up is I was an amateur boxer. A lot of people know me from my days in high school, and after high school I was an amateur and then a professional boxer.
I remember that.
That's kind of really what made me kind of the young man that I was back then and kind of guided my values. And I wouldn't go as far as say it saved me, man, because I had a good network of mentors, and my mother was real strict, and I had people who loved me and guided me. So I felt like I was always on a good path, but the fight game is something that really kept me focused on being positive, being good, and truth be told, man, when you can kick ass, right? When you learn not to walk being afraid of folks, you can do a lot of things. A lot of doors open up for you. I got a little scared of that. I can't get anywhere else.
Yeah, I had a conversation on another podcast with a buddy of mine who's in the boxing world. His name is Eric Hernandez. He goes by Dog Boxer, and he was telling us about how his goal is to just try to pull kids off the street and just try to give them some sort of direction, because that's the kind of confidence that they build. By going through that process.
Yeah, I look back on it, man, as I became a somebody. Like I was a nobody until boxing turned me into a somebody. I'm in the Capitol boxing gym. I remember like it's yesterday, man. I could have been 13 years old, maybe 14, and I'm working out, and I got a couple fights under my belt. But you hear people coming around the ring watching you spar or watching you train, and him say, "Hey, that's Daniel Savala. That's so and so's nephew. Or that's so and so's grandson." You start, and that would just happen, and people would gather around and watch me hit the mitts or watch me spar. And I became somebody there, man. My life took on a meaning, right? I had like a purpose. And it was just, some could say there's like an early development of an ego, but you start to just kind of feel yourself and know, okay, I got something, right? People are watching me. And that's where everything really changed for me. My mindset really changed during that part of my life.
Yeah, I can see that. I think having that outlet is always really good, but when it's something like boxing, when you're able to show that you can do something that most people can't, it's special.
Yeah, man, I'm grateful for it, man. I wouldn't be where I am today had it not been for boxing and the coaches. I had two really great coaches in Joe Guevara and Dennis Velez. Two men, like, at the time you didn't really think about it or understand it, but as a dad today, as a single guy with commitments, you got your work, you got your relationships, you got your family. You had two men, man, who worked full-time jobs, and after work they came and trained me from 4 to 6, 4 to 7 every day for years. And you think about the type of dedication those men put into me and other kids in Oak Park at the time. It's like, shit, I don't even got time to come home and eat a solid meal some days, let alone be in a gym training kids. So shout out to them.
Yeah, shout out to them, man. That's some grown man work right there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I appreciate folks like that, and I feel like that's kind of my motivation to get behind something like this is to use technology and use the internet to try to provide that same resource. Not as personal, of course. Like I'd much rather be in person with people, but just give them some sort of outlet. Because not everybody you can sit down with, and I feel like somebody's not ready to actually have that conversation. Maybe they're just willing to listen at the moment. And I always say, man, like if there's flies on the walls right now listening to this conversation, if anything sparks your interest, drop a comment, send us an email. I have the email address in the comment section or in the description below. So, I mean, this conversation can, go offline if you guys, want to have a bigger conversation about anything you hear today between me and Danny. But Danny, so no, go ahead.
I was going to say something about that listening piece, man. I hope we get into that, is that listening is so critical. That there used to be a radio program back in the day, and you probably remember this if you're from Sacramento. There was a show by a radio DJ who's Davey D. You remember Davey D?
I remember Davey D.
Davey D had a show called Yo Listen Up.
I remember that.
Tuesday or Wednesday, and he was giving out game. I mean, he's a radio DJ, he's just playing the hook, playing the jams, but he had this segment where he was just giving out game to everybody. And he had this tagline at the end, and I remember to this day, it was like, peace and love must rule the dance hall, yada, 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 because bullets have no names. And I remember that as a kid, man. I was 12, 13, 14, listening to him, and he was just spitting this real grown adult kind of stuff. And me as a kid, I remember that. And so I think that was one of my first early lessons, just peep game and listen to things and take, and become interested in something, so.
Yeah, I think for myself, I was very similar to where like I didn't really have a father figure growing up, so I was always looking for those jewels of wisdom, like wherever I could find them, even if they came from like bad sources, like I was trying to find them, man. Like I was eager for that fatherly kind of like advice,
Yeah.
But So I actually asked some of the followers of the show, to throw out some questions for us because like I like getting other people's perspective. So shout out to King Dice for asking this question. He wants to know, what was the number one issue that you faced as a youth, and what did you do and how did you overcome it?
At the time, man, I think as young men or young youth, we don't really realize it yet in hindsight, right? We can look back on our lives, and I just think the biggest threat to me not being where I am today, man, were the people around me, my friends at the time, right? I grew up in South Sacramento.
Mm-hmm.
And I went to school all over South Sacramento, and I'm a neighborhood kid, man. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
And you get to junior high, you get to high school, and you get to see all your folks, all your friends that you grew up with, and come summertime and the stuff that they're doing, the direction that they're all. We all got our own home situations, right? I was raised by a single mother. There was domestic violence in the house at sometimes. It's just tough, man. But as a young kid in the summertime, you pressure to smoke weed, pressure to skip school, gangs. Yeah. And you had a group of I want to say more than 70% of my close friends, my peers I grew up with, my real ones, end up dropping out of high school, having kids really early, going to entering the juvenile justice system. My real ones, right? The ones I grew up, the ones from elementary all the way to junior high. By the time I was a senior in high school, I might have had one friend left who was with me since elementary. And so it's that peer group and those people around me who are really the biggest threat to my success. And how did I navigate that? It goes back to boxing and staying out of, instead of being at McDonald's after school or wander in the city after school, I was straight to the gym. And that's the thing that was a difference maker for me. So if outside of me having an outlet like boxing or having to be at the gym or a mean ass mom that'll whip my ass, it was me being able to tell myself like, hey, these cats are going in. I remember friends of mine, G riding, right, stealing cars and like inviting you to go, and you have to say yes or no, And I told them no 3 times. I ain't tripping. I ain't going with you in no stolen car. But it takes courage for someone to say that. But shit, it didn't take nothing but I ain't gonna end up in jail. So looking back on it, I realized what kind of courage that might have took, right? A presence of like, shit, I know what I want to do. I know what I want for my life. Because you had, man, I can name off names, cats, who rest in peace ain't here no more, or who just, they're doing all right, man. But their life was a bit of a struggle because of the choices they made early on,
Yeah, I feel really lucky because I was one of those people that didn't have the courage to say no. In 2004, I got caught up and I almost caught they were trying to throw like 15 to life charges at us, like me and the guys that I was with. And luckily, by the grace of God, man, like things worked out the way that they did, and I was able to like get back in school and get my life turned around. But it took me almost getting to that point to realize that, like, man, I don't think that this is what it's all about.
Young men got to realize, man, young men got a choice to make, right?
Mm-hmm.
And there's an incident that happened to me my freshman year at McClatchy, where how when you was in high school, you'd have summer school, but it'd be at another high school. We were at Johnson West Campus, right? And so we had a bunch of knucklehead friends from junior high, from Fruit Ridge and 44th, and we had summer school together, and we were funking with some kids. God knows why we were funking at that age, but we were funking, right? And so we was gonna fight them after school, and my buddy brought a knife to school, and like he had it in his pocket, and we was big and bad. And so we go out to walk to go fight dudes, right? Daniel Savala kind of stuff, And we're all in the middle of the street. We're about to start fighting. I don't even remember what I was gonna do, but I was there. I had my friends back. I wasn't a punk, And all I remember, Tim, is this lady comes out with a badge, telling everyone to get down. But she turned to me, man, and she said, and I always get emotional when I tell this story to people. But she was like, what the hell are you doing? She's like, look how handsome you are. Look how handsome you are. Get the fuck out of here. No, she let me go. Man, I ran so fast. I looked. And as I'm running down Fruit Ridge, I crossed the street on Fruit Ridge and Stockton. I passed my high school, my freshman English teacher, Mr. Larson, and just waved at him. But after that, I was like, shit, man, I ain't hanging with these fools. I can't be living like this. But it takes a lot of courage, man, to figure out like that instant, had I been in trouble or got arrested, what I'd be doing, But that woman singing me out was like, boy, you're too handsome to be here. Get the hell out of here. Why are you hanging with these fools? You're different. And so I bounced, man, and saved me somehow.
It's crazy. It's crazy looking back how you could like pinpoint certain things that could have gone wrong and but didn't, and then you kind of like appreciate those moments.
Yeah, man, I could have went to jail. I don't know. I don't know who went to jail that day, but she was a cop, man. She had a badge and everything. She told everyone to get down. She came to me and she was like, "Look how handsome you are. Get out of here, man. What are you doing with these fools?" And I bounced. I was running.
The moneymaker saved you, bro.
Yeah, it did. So God bless people like that. But again, the question though was like, who, what are some of those obstacles? There's all kinds of obstacles, like being a son of a single mother. A lot of times, Tim, money was hard, money was tight. Barely had good food to eat, let alone nice clothes to wear, and just you remember that. Hopefully, folks can relate to like being 14, 15 years old and not having the nicest clothes because you can't afford them, right? and what that does to your self-esteem, and what thoughts go to your head, cleaning your shoes, ironing your clothes, you know what I'm saying, doing the best you can. And those type of things were real, man. Those are real challenges that when I think back, I just dealt with them head on. You know, that maybe that's just me as a person, but if there's a young man out there who struggles with that, you know, it's important that we take those small little things, because obstacles are coming all kinds of forms, man. It ain't just, oh, I'm missing a leg or something, man. You know, it's not just that. It's just shit, man. There ain't no food at home. You know, I ain't got no one to talk to. My dad is, my dad struggled with substance abuse. You know, rest in peace. My dad was a good, loving man, but he struggled with addiction, man. You know, he loved me to death, but couldn't do nothing for me. You know, couldn't provide for me. Couldn't hold me or give me any lessons. He did the best he could when he could, but he was mostly absent my whole life, you know?
Yeah, I think a combination of all those factors, can definitely deter somebody from trying to find the good in their experience. But I do think that, how you kind of you kind of mentioned the fact of like, having mentors around you and having like older men kind of giving you some sort of guidance, even though, the fact that your father was unable to at certain times. I mean, I think that's really important, man. So like another question that was thrown out there to me, and shout out to Harv Hustle and Vinny Vallejo for asking this question. Can you just talk about the importance of mentorship, like for being a mentor as well as the person being mentored?
Yeah, man, I've been both. I've been a mentor to young men recently over the last couple of years, and I've been a mentee. And obviously, my coaches. My coach Dennis Velez, who was an all-Marine champion and who loved fighting, was also dealing with his own recovery and trying to stay clean and sober and finding an outlet and helping me. But he came at me because someone came at him. That's what you always paying it forward, right? Like, why are you here in the gym helping me? Is because someone was there to help me. So you develop this culture of giving back and understanding that you didn't get here alone. Right, that you look back on why you are where you are, and there's just if you're lucky, there's a whole lot of people. And my story, I look back at almost every period of my young adult life, and there was always someone there. There's always someone. Now it's up to us to kind of take that advice and take it and go with it. But even down to people like Adina Medina at La Familia Counseling Center, who Adina didn't know me. She saw something in me, right? She liked the way I speak. She liked the way whatever, and gave me a job in the summer and just brought me in. You know what I mean? Like things like that. We don't know why she did that. I like to think now Adina is the same mindset. Like, here's this young man who comes from a tough, kind of background, and like he needs every inch he can get. Let me bring him in and get him a job, in an office so he can build his resume. Because before I was like busting tables at Alonzo's, washing dishes and stuff, and didn't have, I was making money, but I need to take that next step. But having people like Adina, even through high school, there was, people saw something in me, man. So as long as I can remember, when I was in elementary school, we had even our yard duty, Chuck, his younger son, JR, and we'd all hang out together. And Chuck was always on me all the way through high school. Anybody remember Chuck? From McClatchy High School, he was like the hall monitor, like just stood on me, always were looking out for me, always trying to school me and tell me what to do. There's always been people around trying to put me in the right direction.
Yeah, man. Shout out Adina Medina, but also just shout out La Familia Counseling Center, man, because like we were talking about before, man, I personally feel like I wouldn't be where I'm at if it wasn't for that time in my life, because I originally went to La Familia because my mom had enough of me. Like I was acting bad. And so she took me to Phyllis, and Phyllis said, all right, you're going to be working with me for the summer. You're not going to get paid. You're just going to volunteer, but I'm going to keep you busy. And that summer, man, I literally think changed my life, because although I did get in trouble later on down the line, like it's the thing that I kept pulling from like later down the line to realize like, no, there's more to me. Like there's more that I could do. Like somebody believed in me. And like you said, man, like you had somebody that gave you that guidance and that information that you can always tap into. It doesn't even have to just to be in that moment. Like it's stuff that just it's inside of you now because somebody gave you that guidance, man. And oh man, like I totally feel what you're saying, bro. Like I have some of my fondest memories from my adolescence at La Familia. So Shout out everybody that's over there.
Yeah, all of us, man. Think about what we were all doing that those summers, those 3-4 summers at La Familia, growing as young individuals, as policy thinkers. And I got swept up in this whole, the schools not jailed movement of the early 2000s, and really forcing myself to think about the shit, like, the prison industrial complex and things like that. And it just set my mind in a whole different place. And so being at La Familia, being surrounded by Adina and some of the other folks that work there, expanded, an 18, 19-year-old kid's mind into, what else can I start thinking of, and as a boxer, right? I'm still fighting at the time. I was a professional fighter while working at La Familia, and then it was actually Raymond. Remember Raymond? Raymond's the one who gave me the courage to just leave La Familia to go fight full time, talking to him one-on-one. He was an older cat, older dude.
Tito.
Yeah, Tito, you look up like, what's up, man? He just school you, give you game all the time. But I remember I was in the office with him and was talking about, problems and this and that. And I wasn't ready to leave La Familia because I had, he just told me straight up, he was like, man, they'll find someone to replace you. Don't worry about them, man. Don't worry about this organization. They're going to be fine. You go do what you got to do. And I was like, man, you're right. Fuck this place. I'm gone, And I left. And I decided to turn pro, and I decided to just, pursue, boxing full time.
Wow, man. That's a big step. That's a big step in a young man's life, man. That's a big decision.
Yeah.
So how did you end up transitioning out of boxing and into what you're doing now?
Man, having a son and knowing how I grew up. So I always knew I was going to go to college, right? I always my mom had planted something in me that you're going to go to school one day, you're going to go to college. I'm like, all right, never thought twice about it. Knew I'd do it eventually. And I knew I didn't want to be like other people. My dad struggled. My dad didn't graduate high school. Same thing with my mom barely graduated high school. And I knew I wanted better for myself. But having the luxury of pursuing your dream, right, as a fighter is one thing. But once I realized that I was having a baby, I was like, oh shit. I got to get a job. I got to get solvent. I got to get on a path somewhere so that I'm not struggling, because I don't ever want to struggle, with children. And so I just stopped, man, cold turkey. I had my last fight at the Rayleigh Field in July 2007, I think.
Oh, man.
And I had a transfer agreement at UC Davis. So I was going to wait a whole year, because UC Davis, you can only go there in the fall. And we're heading into the spring. And I said, man, I can't wait a whole year. I got to be enrolled in school now. And I decided to end up going to CSUN, Cal State Northridge, because they took spring transfer. I was ready to go. So I found out I was having a baby. Oh, shit. Baby came, signed up for school, got accepted, and dipped down to CSUN and got a 4-year degree. While my son was, then I had a daughter. So I had a son and a daughter. And it wasn't an easy decision, but it was just a logical next step. Shit, I got kids to worry about now. I got a responsibility, the life I want to live, And in hindsight, I probably should have stayed fighting for a couple more years, but it was the right thing to do at the time. I think I still could have had an opportunity to do more work, to advance. But I just made it. It was just I didn't really think about it twice, man. I was like, well, that's it. I'm not a boxer anymore. And
shout out CSUN, man. That's a great school, man. That's a great school.
So I went to CSUN, and like I said, I got put on some weight. I wasn't in the gym, and just immersed myself in my studies there. I was a full-time student. I had a part-time job at night, bartending and waiting tables in this great little restaurant in downtown LA. It was a dream out there, man. Living in LA was one of the best experiences of my life. Being a young kid from Sacramento and just going out there and seeing this big major city and hanging out with people in downtown LA and the Valley, living that college kind of life. It was one of the best experiences of my life.
Yeah, I agree, man. It's really cool out here because, coming from Sacramento, man, there's just not anything like it. You know what I mean? No. You don't see the same things, and it's so big, man. LA is you could drive for hours and just keep seeing neighborhoods and cities and buildings and houses and everything, man.
But I was talking about this today with somebody in another conversation about my work, and I talked about my experience in Los Angeles and how it gave me a new perspective on cities and neighborhoods and something that we call micro neighborhoods. Because coming from Sacramento, I'm in Sacramento. Even if you're in Roseville, you're still in Sacramento, right?
Mm-hmm.
And in LA, it kind of taught me, like, you know, I've had fools tell me, you're in the Valley, or you're in Encino, or you're somewhere else. So this idea, there's these micro neighborhoods, these micro parts of your city, and I envision places like Franklin Boulevard or Northgate or Del Paso Boulevard being very similar to these small little enclaves, these small little neighborhoods in Los Angeles, as they get better over time, though, you know. But LA taught me a lot. It prepared me for the work that I'm doing now here in Sacramento. One of the reasons why I decided to go to LA, because I knew I wanted to be in urban planning. I wanted to learn about the built environment. I said, shit, I might as well go to the big city. What goes in LA goes the rest of the state and the rest of the country most times.
Right.
So I get to LA and I'm working for the city of LA. Then I'm working for a private consulting firm out there, and I just got probably the best education I could ask for, and the best like internships and like work experience there. And just when I came here to Sacramento, I just had this level of confidence, like, fools don't even know what they're doing out here, you know? Like I was on something different. I was like, these fools don't know nothing. Let me show them, you know?
And so get out of my way, man. Come on.
Yeah, so y'all are 6 months behind the game, man. Let me show you guys about, you know. And that's just kind of the attitude I've adopted over the years, that, you know, the confidence that I've gained through my world experience, life experiences, work experiences, that I just try to move different, man, you know.
But I think you touched on something before we started recording. You touched on something that I feel like is really important that I've heard other people mention, and that's staying rooted and staying connected to, you know, your past and to your background and to your hometown or whatever it is, man. Just staying connected. And I talked about this with another person on this podcast before about you know, you, but he was talking more about his immediate family. But I mean, it can relate to your neighborhood or your city. But going out, you know, and learning and picking up information that your family wasn't aware of, or your neighborhood or your city wasn't aware of, and then bringing it back.
Yeah.
And then teaching so that you know that situation can improve and can grow, and you know you can help out in that way.
Yeah, man, there's a bunch of different ways you can look at that question or that, and even with the family element, and then, you know, your food, your neighborhood element, and, you know, we get wrapped up in that term, you know, keeping it real or being real, and I think it's a mix of that, right? Because I think there's a lot of fake dudes out here, man. You know, you make it, you change up, and you switch up. Like, I'm not with that, man. Like, I could talk like 3 or 4 languages, man. I'm still, you know, I think I'm still relatable. I forgot where I was, man. I was at the mall a couple years ago, and I ran into this old homeboy of mine, and I'm like, oh, what's up, G? You know, and he looks and he's talking to me like some square, like, carpet salesman. I was like, talk to me like you trying to sell me something, cuz, like, this me, man. Come on, like, that ain't nothing changed with me, man. Like, I try to be the same now. Now I move with a bunch of different folks, and you know, I've got a job, I've got board members and people who I'm responsible for, trying to image, you know what I mean? I want to do the best I can and represent people and speak well, so I ain't out here cussing and like smoking weed and like cutting up like that. That's not who I am. But if that's who you are, and I know you, I ain't better than you, man. I don't look down on you. Like, we're the same. We're all people, man. Like, I hope I inspire people. I had this cat years ago when I worked with him, named Ray, and Ray was just like, you know, game recognizes game. You know, someone's a little hood. You know they're from the neighborhood, and you just, you know, he never came out and said it, but, you know, I was like, man, look at this fool. He got a job, man. He got a suit. Like, he's like, people be respecting him. Like, that's what's up, man. Like, it's possible, right? Is you can move like that. You can still be real. You can still do all these things. And I got people in my family, Tim, who, like, you know, who use drugs or have used drugs, been in prison. You know, they still struggle with that. But, you know, I've got, you know, my family has a lot of trauma when it comes to gang violence, drug addiction. And it's in the newspaper. It's well documented in West Sacramento, where my family's from. And I don't shy away from that stuff, man. That's my family's beautiful. Man, my family loves me. I love them. We all love each other. They all got their own struggles. But, you know, that's who we are. That's who we come from. And
I think there's a sense of having that pride, man, and not being ashamed of where you came from, and trying to get away from it, and just actually like embracing it, because regardless if you embrace it or not, man, it made you who you are.
Yeah, own it. But we got to own it. And it's a beautiful thing. And people, that's the only way you're going to break this cycle of this generational poverty, right? Or just general groupthink. And you just got to, you got to love your people. You got to love your family. They have their own path. They have their reasons. They may change up. They may get where I'm at later on in their life. And I might have got here sooner because I made different decisions. But, man, I love, is crazy as some of my families move, I still love them, man, and they do their thing. I see them, I give them a big hug, and it's just, I can't run away from that, man. I told someone, I don't want this job more than I want to be myself, right? I don't want to be in this, with this scene more than I want to be who I am, because particularly working in a place like Sacramento. I had the job I'm at now. I was working for the city council member who represents Del Paso Heights, who at the time, one of the first African Americans to be voted into the city council to represent Del Paso Heights in more than like 40 years.
Mm-hmm.
Huge kind of deal. And like dealing with voters and people in North Sac or Del Paso Heights, it's a whole different level of problems out there, issues, and people that you're really trying to serve. And one of the things I learned from my old boss and my mentor, Alan Warren, was that, we got to get down here. If we're trying to represent these people and help them, we got to be down with them and understand their struggles. And so, it's beautiful when people call the office, right, and complain about roaches. And we care. And we say, well, shit, you shouldn't have roaches. Let me call the rental housing inspection program. Let's show your landlord what it's about. But the fact that he hired a staff member like that who's like, recognizes those as real problems that his constituents had, and we go out and we tackle them, as opposed to like, because to be honest with you, that's not our job, right? But there's a solution to it, and he taught us and demanded that we take care of folks like that, right? And you can only kind of have that level of authenticity and give a shit about those type of things if you lived it, if you understand it. And so it took me working in this community to a whole nother level. That's why I think I've done well.
Yeah, man. I think you touched on so many important things right there, man. I think one of the most important being is just being able to represent your community, in a way where you're going to be effective and you're going to be able to make a difference because you relate to your community. And I mean, there's nothing wrong with that, man. Like I feel like that is not as common as it should be. Like there's so many people, like you said, that they kind of try to shy away from their past, or they try not to talk about it, or they kind of like move away from the community and never look back. So I think that the more like this is a part of this process of like doing the grown man sessions, man, just trying to implore that into young men, man, that like, even if you go through something hard, even if you're going through some crazy stuff and you're not from the best neighborhood, it doesn't mean that you can't grow out of that, but also bring it with you. You know what I mean?
Right. And like I said, I try to be like realistic, like, like I said, it's a little bit of just God-given luck, like how I ended up and the situations that I found myself in,
right?
Mixed with, good mentors and good people, and then me doing the work, right? Not everyone is as lucky as I am, man. So you got some kids out here who need a lot more love and a lot more attention, and they just can't get it. It's tough. That being said, man, I don't want to sugarcoat it. Like, you don't have to draw some lines in the sand. There are, man, young men got to make a decision at some point in their life that they're not with this, you know what I mean? I have a 13-year-old son who's going to be 14 in June. And I've been saying for the last year internally, and I've said it to him vocally, that, who you are today for the next year really going to be who you are for the rest of your life, son. Mm-hmm. You're 13, 14 years old, 7, 8, you're going to go be in 9th grade. And the young person that you are in your mind right now, it really, like, my job's not done, but when you talk about your core values and who you are and where your mind's at, that's really who you're going to be. And young men in that age group, it's not over if you make the mistake, but you really got to tell yourself, this is who I am. Take stock of who you are. All right. Every day, I heard a great quote that you can't control what you don't measure. You got to measure yourself every day.
I like that.
Where am I at? You know, what I want to do, set a plan, small. I'm a fan of small goals, right? Setting small goals, small daily goals, weekly goals. You can't control what you don't measure. So take stock of yourself and ask yourself, is this, you know, what kind of life do I want for myself? And what I'm doing today, is that going to get me there? And if it ain't, man, you got to change it. It's that simple. You got to change it.
So let me ask you this. To a young man that's in that situation that realizes that, okay, like this isn't working, but doesn't know how to ask for help, like how would you tell him to ask for help?
There's several ways, man, and it all depends. Sometimes it's situational, right? And you got to look at who you're asking. As a successful working man in today, shit, if I got an email, call, text from any young person who wanted help, man, I'd do anything. You know, that's just how most people are, right? How most men are, man. Men, we're problem solvers, man. Real men, right?
Right.
We're problem solvers. You know, we're here to get things done. We're you know, and that's hopefully what I instill in my son. And when you call on another man and you ask another man for a favor, most of the time you're going to get the answer you need, right? Because man, we're here to help. If you're in a situation where you got a bunch of lame people around you, you got to recognize that. So that you look around, like honestly, think about what kind of life you want. And if the men around you aren't living the life you want, they're probably not the men you need to be asking advice for. You know what I mean? So sometimes you got to step outside of your circle, whether it be your family, whether it be, you know, your friends, your inner circle, and you may see somebody, you know, somebody. I used to have a neighbor. I used to live in South Sac who, her dad used to sit outside every day. My memory of him was polishing his car. He had a beautiful Corvette, right? And I thought about asking him how about car, because he was there. I remember seeing him, but I never did. But I wish I would have asked him, you know, hey, about this car, or asked him about it because I was curious. And he was a man, you know, his wife, his daughter Regina is very successful to this day. Good people, good family. But I just remember seeing that. You're around them. You see examples of what good men and even good women, you know, women got some of the best advice, you know.
Oh yeah, for sure.
And so as a young man, talk to another man may be easier, but you know, you'll find some good advice from women too. So you just look outside your immediate circle, look and find who's living the life you want, right? Or who's moving in the direction that you want, and just ask them for help. Be very intentional about what you want. Hey, I want this, or I want that. They may just give it to you, or they may show you how to get it. I would be over the moon if someone asked me for help, because that's just who I am, and I want to help.
So anybody listening, you know, Danny and myself are here to help. If you guys have any questions, you can reach out to Danny. I'll drop his contact information in the description, and you can reach out to me as well. But to build on what you just said, I heard that you are the average of the 5 people that you spend the most time with. Yeah. So to go back to what you're saying, if you're surrounded by lames, I mean, by the law of averages, you're going to end up being lame. So if you don't want to be a lame, man, you gotta make a move. You gotta go work with some winners, and you gotta find the winners and keep them around you, man. I mean, there's nothing wrong with saying like, hey, like I've known this dude for my whole life. He's my best friend. If he's making stupid decisions and he's not making smart choices, and he wants you to go along with him, that's not really a friend. I mean, in my opinion,
it's not, man. And I'll tell you a story about one of my best friends who passed away years ago, Joseph Mergel. Me and Joseph Mergel were with each other since Ethel Baker, man. And
I remember Joe.
Remember Joseph Mergel? Joseph Mergel was my folks, man. Like, that's my real one. And we spent the night at each other's house, man. His grandma's house, his dad, everyone, the whole family. But, you know, me and Joseph, we had different paths, man. You know, we're on different things. When I came back to Sacramento, reluctantly, I had no money, nothing. But who took care of me? Who put money in my pocket? Who helped me move? Joe, right? When I would, you know, Joe would make fun of me on my square bear, Mr. Governor, always talk. But man, he loved me. He never like, oh, you ain't shit. Oh, you think you're bad. Joe just had love for me, man. No matter what I did, no matter, and you know, I might not have seen him for years, but I come back to Sacramento. Him and his wife came to see me in LA. Then I came back to Sacramento, and we just connected. I didn't smoke with them. I didn't drink with them. I don't roll like that, but that's my family, man. That's how we did it. And then to see someone like that, you know, we lose someone like that tragically. Your friends you're always going to be your friends, and they should want to see you succeed. They shouldn't care if you switch up or do something different, you know, because you're not always going to be on the same path. And you just got to find that path that you want, and then go after it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you got to recognize the real ones, because even even sometimes the real ones that are not doing what you're trying to do. Yeah. Like you said, man, if you're trying to do better and maybe they're not at that moment, they'll still support you.
Yeah, they'll still support you. Joe always had, man. Joe was at the gym with me. He was at, and you got to get uncomfortable, man. Like I said, neighborhood kid. Like my immediate friends were mostly knuckleheads. But when I was at Sacramento City College, for example, I just had a desire to be different and to challenge my mind, and I joined the debate team. Right, and I remember going to debate practice and just feeling stupid. Like, man, I don't know. They talked about youth in Asia, and I was like, kids in Asia? Well, I don't know about nothing. And they're like, no, fool, euthanasia, like suicide. And I was like, that's how just I didn't know, man. And I had to just like embarrass myself and ask these questions. But then you had, instructors there who were like, and even other people were like, man, just read the newspaper. Read the newspaper every day, and like, even if you don't understand what you're reading, just keep reading it. And before you know it, man, a few years later, man, I know all about Israel, Gaza. I know all the conflict. I just know what's going on throughout the world because I read the paper. And so I started, soaking up the newspaper and surrounding myself with other people. My vocabulary just kind of changed. I became a good debater. I took that energy, that competitive nature of me being a fighter, and I applied it to forensics, like speech and debate. I competed in Lincoln Douglas parliamentary debate and extemporaneous speaking, and changed my life again.
Oh man, that's awesome.
Myself, man, I had to be embarrassed. Like, I really said that. I was like, Chinese kids. I don't know about Chinese kids euthanasia. But that's real, man. It's what it is. But I had to be. You got to be vulnerable like that. You got to be willing to just. I'm gonna do something different, man. Like these square bears over here, like going to class on their way to Pacific on a scholarship. Like that's what I was trying to be doing, and I went with them.
Yeah, man, you gotta want it. You gotta want it, and you gotta be willing to take the lumps and just put in the work and embarrass yourself if you have to make sacrifices.
Yeah, but, and I don't think we talk about the lumps enough, man, and how hard it really is, man.
It is emotionally, like it messes with your identity. And I mean that's why like a part of me could kind of understand how somebody that comes from a certain neighborhood, a certain background, and ends up making like something of themselves, and they puts themselves through that. Like it could be gut wrenching, man. It could twist yourself in some knots. And if you make it past that, you probably think like, man, I did it. Why can't everybody else do it? You know what I mean?
Yeah,
man, it's hard.
We ask those questions, man. I'm super liberal when it comes to certain things. Like I'm just bleeding the heart. Like, oh man, these poor people, But at the end of the day, like I can't judge. They had their path. They do what they do, and I'm not here to judge people how they get to their situation and why they're doing this. And I hear enough people saying, well, they had the same chance you did. Well, no, they didn't. You know what I mean?
Everybody's situation is different, man.
Everyone. I don't know what kind of trauma they had. I had no one was touching me when I was a kid. No one was, I had some struggles, but wasn't no one, messing with me. Wasn't. My mom was working. You people who have generational just trauma that they still struggle with. And shit, we don't know that, so we can't judge people. They are where they are for a reason, and it's up to them to get it out. But it's hard, man. It's not. I'm about to be 40, and I'm barely making decent money. I'm barely getting to a place where like, oh, I'm good. You know what I mean? I've been in the real struggle since the day I started working. I remember reading the Penny Saver at 15, couldn't wait to work so I could make some money to buy myself some shoes, man. Like trying to get a paper route. I've been trying to change my life and trying to get better since I was a kid. And I'm about to be 40 and I'm barely there. Barely there. Had some of the highest highs and lowest lows being a fighter. You know what I mean? Putting everything on the line to be a boxer believing in yourself when other people don't, all of that stuff, man. You know,
I mean, it's never too late, man. We talked about it on another podcast, man. Like, you know, you could be, you know, in your 50s and want to go back to school and like improve your life. And, you know, you can't tell yourself that you're too old, and you can't tell yourself that, like all these other kids are going to be so young. I mean, you got to do it. You know, it's never too late, man. I mean, I didn't start making my changes until probably like, you know, my mid 20s, you know, and it took a lot. It took a lot, bro. Like, you know, facing jail and almost dying and dealing with a whole bunch of like, you know, my own mental health issues. It took a lot, man, but it's possible. It's possible.
Yeah.
I think that's like the overall message that I'm getting from this talk with you is that regardless of where you come from, man, it's possible. It's possible. You just like Danny said, you need to reach out for help. You need to, you know, be able to like identify who's around you. You need to be able to, you know, maybe find a mentor, you know, and just be around people that you know want to see you succeed and want to help you get through like those challenges.
Yeah. And I find myself a lot of times correcting, you know, friends of mine who have this artificial like calendar, like, oh, I'm this age, so I got to be doing this.
I hate that.
And get that out your mind. Like, your path is your path, and every bump in your road is going to change who you are. It's going to change. It's going to make you better. It's going to make you. It just is, man. Like I tell people all the time, I got like a 7 to 8 year. I'm behind. Because right after high school, you know, I started my career as a professional fighter. I should have been graduated college, into the workforce, all those things. No, man, I didn't graduate from like Sac City College till like 07, 08, right? And then went on to CSUN in like 2010. And like, you know what I mean? That's how far behind I was just because I was pursuing that goal of becoming a fighter. And like, here I am dang near in my 40s with, you know, 8-9 years of real work experience in the workforce. Lucky I got an opportunity to work on the elected official side, where I got this accelerated education in government and local government, and that opportunity I got to work with the council member like altered my life trajectory like crazy. Like I wouldn't be where I was today without that opportunity. But had I not gone through this path of waiting and doing my other thing, and this is the perfect opportunity, and this is where I'm supposed to be, you know?
And I wouldn't be able to talk to you right now, man, about all these cool things that you went through, man.
Yeah, and you wouldn't, you know, and you hadn't gone through what you go through, like, you don't give two shits about what, you know what I mean? If everyone had that artificial, like, oh, cool, you got a good family, here's your, going to get a college degree, go get a job, and no one cares, but it's living through these things, man, and genuinely caring. Right, when you come from a place where you genuinely think like, man, like I had it messed up, or I had it a certain way, and you see young people and us as humans, man, we want. Maybe I'm just still, what do they call that? Too much of an optimist, you know. I try to see the best I can in people and situations, but I just believe in people, man. I believe in that we have. There's some shitty people out there, don't get me wrong, but there are far more better people out here, man, and most of us care. Most of us care, and you find yourself with people who care, and you ask them for help, they'll help you.
Yeah, I totally agree with you, man. I feel like that message isn't put out there enough.
Yeah. But like you Tim, like your music, man. Like I've never seen your music, right? Or still seeing your music. And like what's that journey's been like? And like how many times have you thought about like stopping or how much of, you know, if you got 12 hours in your day, how much can you dedicate it now that you got other responsibilities? And it's like what you do, man, it's something that, you know, how do you handle that?
I've already accepted the fact that regardless of how much time I can put into it, I'm just going to keep doing it because I love it so much.
Yeah.
You know, to me, it's more of a therapeutic thing, and it's more of a, you know, something that I'm just passionate about. You know what I mean? It's like, I just love doing it, man. So regardless of if I can dedicate, you know, a certain amount of time to it, and I feel like I'm like gonna, you know, make it big, like that's not what I'm in it for. So to me, man, like, you know, I just got finished recording like 4 new songs after like maybe, you know, a year layoff, man, like this past month. So, you know, and the thing about music, I feel like is that, you know, as an artist, man, you're always looking inside and looking how things have changed on the inside.
Yeah.
And so like the message changes and the music changes, and all the whole vibe changes, So like when I was recording, my buddy was like, damn, bro, he's like, you're on a different vibe, huh? I was like, yeah, man. I've been through so much in the past, year, dealing with the COVID and going through some personal things. They're like, you can't help but, express that in a different way, man. I feel like more passionate about that, in general.
And that's a message it's hip hop, man. And all of us connect with hip hop. All of us have that album that we remember when we were growing up and to this day, man, I still listen to gangster rap.
Yeah, me too.
And that's probably what I listen to more outside of some soul music. But again, I'm starting to see these gangster rappers now change it and flip the script a little bit and be a little more mature with their lyrics and what they're doing because they kind of elevated. I heard that couple X-Rated's new stuff, and it's like, man, like he's coming with something different. And I think that gives even people like me and other people who are just hip hop or rap music fans in general that we can still stay connected to this music, this genre of music, and people like you. Who, as you mature and your music becomes mature, we're able to still connect. I can't connect with these mumble rappers. Right? I'm never going to connect with that. But like when you start, there's a couple of young rappers out here who got something to say. All right, I'll listen to them. But I'm looking for some of this older music, MCs. I'm waiting for some real MCs, man, to come out and just do it the old school way.
Yeah. Actually, X-Rated is in one of my top 100 people I would love to interview on this show, man. So hopefully the universe can manifest that, man.
Yeah, man, reach out, man. He, I follow him. Everything he's been doing ever since he was locked up, man.
Me too, man. I feel like his story is really profound, man. Like the way that he was able to, make it through that whole ordeal and stay kind of true to himself and like his own ethics. Yeah. But at the same time, like now he's out here, trying to get people to, like think about it all differently, man. But still like staying true to his roots, man. I mean, that's X-Rated, man. But he's not over here talking about lollipops and rainbows, But I mean, he still has that empowering message in there, man.
Yeah, X-Rated low.
Yeah. All right, Danny, man. Well, before we go, man, is there anything that you want to tell to any young men out there listening right now that maybe they're going through some things that you could just give them a little bit of guidance?
Yeah, for young men like my son, man, I'm fortunate to have my son here with me every day, and I get to when he wants to listen to me, right? But I got a good son, he's cool, but. You need some tough times in your life right now when you're a young man. I remember being alone in my room. I remember just having questions and not having a father around and thinking. And if you find yourself just thinking and questioning what's going on, man, you're halfway through the problem. You know what I mean? Because it's when you find if you get to a point where you're not thinking about it, it just becomes the reality that you're stuck with. Then there's hope is being lost, right? You lose it. You find yourself thinking and even asking these questions and understand that you're halfway through the problem, right? You got to think your way out of it. There's a solution to almost everything that we confront in our lives, and we just got to, as men, start to think our way out of them a little better. Develop a plan. Think about where you want to be, and it's not going to happen overnight. Small changes. Hey, I'm going to dress different tomorrow when I go to school. Hey, I'm just going to go to school tomorrow. I'm going to try to sit in the front row. I'm just going to change it up, and I'm just going to try and just change things. You know what I mean? You got to make a difference. You got to make yourself uncomfortable sometimes. But God, to be 13 or 14 years old, or even 15 years old, even younger adults, man. I got a lot of friends who had kids early that are struggling in their lives, and I try to tell them like, you might have made some mistakes, but it ain't too late. You start thinking about what you want, develop a plan, ask for help, and just be positive. Be positive, man, because time is going to happen no matter what you do. You can have a problem today, and 3 years later still have the same problem.
Yeah.
Or 3 years later, you're almost done, right? You're almost solving it. You're almost to a degree, or you're almost to a new job. You got to start,
And that whole part of being uncomfortable, there's a saying that goes, success lies right outside of your comfort zone.
Yeah, it does.
So, push yourself outside of your comfort zone and watch how, things start to happen for you. Just takes a little bit of courage, like Danny said, man.
It does.
Oh, man,
Takes
Danny.
a little bit of courage.
Yeah, dude. I mean, this has been a really good conversation, man. Is there anything that you want to shout out before we go? Anything you want to plug?
Just my neighborhood, man. I'm passionate about what I do, and part of the reason why I'm successful is because I have passion. I don't have this job representing businesses on Del Paso Boulevard because they pay me well. The fact that they pay me is great, but I just love this community. I love the hustle that a lot of these small business owners have. I love that this community got a chip on their shoulder, that they're middle income. We got young entrepreneurs on Del Paso Boulevard. Carlos Lopez with the Go to Bed brand. We got Uptown Takeout. We got the Dog Pound skate shop. We got this cool BMX shop. Young entrepreneurs of color out here doing their thing. And if you eat food, if you eat burgers, steaks, if you buy clothing, come to Del Paso Boulevard and check out Universal Clothing Boutique. Holler at my boy Fred. He hook you up. Go see Carlos Lopez and them at Uptown Takeout and Go to Bed Clothing for all your printing needs. Man, it's out here. It's popping. And support your small business owners. Just come out here and see what's going on out here. It's special. It ain't all guns and 40s out here.
Shout out Coslos, man. I used to make music with Carlos and them. I never did songs with Carlos, but we was out there active at the same time.
I mean, they're doing their thing out there, man. It's nice. It's nice.
Right on, man. Well, we appreciate all the work that you're doing, Danny, man, for real. And I really appreciate all the advice and all the stories that you're able to share with us today, because I feel like somebody's going to be able to learn from them and take something away from them. So thank you for your time. Yeah, man, I don't even know what else to say, bro.
Yeah. No, thanks to you, Tim, man. Just as long as the fact that you're even doing this, man, reaching out to me and we're able to have this conversation, two grown men sessions. That's all it is. That's all we got to do, man. We take an hour, 2 hours of our night and just give what we have to give, and hopefully someone's listening.
That's all it is, man. All right, man. So I always end the show by saying, one person can change the world, but it's one person at a time, and that one person is you. Till the next time, Grown Man Sessions. Peace out, you guys.
Cool. All right, Tim. Thanks.
Later, man.